Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Jen, it doesn't look like we have anybody signed up for public expression. Okay. Then I would just like to remind our audience and presenters that this meeting is being recorded this evening and it will be available shortly online. Before we begin, just please make sure that your cell phones are set to off or to silent so that we can continue to participate in business. Since we have no speakers this evening from the community, we will move on to kudos. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Oh, Jerry, go ahead.
The elementary play. Well, I saw it this afternoon. It was wonderful. There was a nice big crowd of parents, grandparents, and that. The kids did a fantastic job. I don't think I heard one line flubbed at all. I mean, which, you would expect for kids that young. The singing was great. It was just wonderful. So I congratulate the students, their advisors, and Mikey for such a wonderful performance. And hopefully it goes even better tonight. And then our elementary tour that the school board took last Wednesday when we went into elementary classrooms and actually saw what was going on. I was really struck by classroom management by the teachers and also the collaboration that students do among themselves. I know when I went to elementary school 1,000 years ago, we sat in rows of desks and if you talk to anybody, and now, I mean, they work together. It's great to see. And to tell you the truth, that's what you do when you're in a workplace. So it's great to teach that now. So the elementary tour was great. Middle high school honor rolls. I think staff honor roll, which is 95 to 100. We had like 53 students from 6 to 12. The principal, which is 90 to 95, was another 76. And then the honor roll, which was 85 to 90, is 59. That's 188 students on honor roll. That's what we're here for. It's great to see. It's wonderful. Thank you very much, Nate, for sharing that. Here we go again. Jazz band spaghetti dinner. You got to eat and be entertained all at the same time. It doesn't happen that often. It used to happen at our dinner table a long time ago when my kids would act out, but otherwise, no, it was great. And again, thank you to the students who participated, to their instructors, and to all the parents and band boosters and that, including Cindy here.
They
who helped support
raised
it.
over $800, which will be used to offset some of the costs for some kids traveling in the band trip this spring.
Very good. Oh, that's great. Sorry to steal your thunder. Okay.
Not that sorry.
No, not that. Sorry, not sorry, as they say. Indoor track, the boys placed second. Okay, Henry Sherman was voted male field event, outstanding male field event performer. I'm not sure how much more he can do, but we'll see because he's just an outstanding athlete and a great student to boot. Okay, and also Daniel Gowell won in the pole vault, I believe, too. And the boys placed second overall, so that's nice. Wait a minute, do I have one more? Oh, yes, I do. It's on the back. Rotary Students of the Month, Levi Warren and Lila Dussault. Is that how you pronounce it? Congratulations to them. Finished.
Okay, now that Jerry's taken 2/3 of everything, would anyone like to add anything else?
I have one, maybe two. All right. Boys basketball, they've been in the spotlight a lot lately. We had Prime 585 come out and do a little interview with the coaches and the players, which was great to see the team camaraderie. Also, the same night, we had the girls basketball helping collect donations for Ovid. Am I saying that correctly? Ovid. For a fire that they endured in their town. So we had a bunch of donations to send to the families there. Also Dylan Washburn earned 1,000 points at our last home game. So it was great to do it at our home turf in front of a crowd, with everyone cheering him on. I think the best part is kids of all ages came down and got their picture with him like he was the star. So that was great.
And he's just a sophomore, right?
Yeah. Lastly, this afternoon when we came for the play as well, there was the blood drive was wrapping up. We went to the play and then we were coming out. Everyone was in the gym there's a bunch of kids in the gym doing intramural. So it's great to see them active even during the winter, getting in there and spending some more time together. And that's all I had.
Anybody else? I would just like to add a congratulations to our 16 elementary Student of the Month recipients for the month of January for showcasing exemplary character through the Bulldog 4. I also had a kudos for individual Wayne Finger Lakes League Division I Indoor Track Championships, Cody Vanderwerk on February 3rd, one for pole vault, and Henry Sherman, one for long jump and the weight throw. And I have one for February 1st for varsity cheerleading, placing 3rd. Emma Roble placed 4th, and Peyton Slade placed 3rd in the jump-off competition. And I would also like to give a huge kudos to 188 of our 6 through 12 students for all of their hard work. It pays off. That's incredible to see that number. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I did the math twice, actually, Jerry, but you have it just as I have it. So I'm extremely proud at all the kudos this month, looking at all the achievements and the awards and the acknowledgements. I also have one for on the back of my paper. Jerry took most of mine, so I actually had two sides this time. There was a congratulations to Dylan Abrams for being recognized by Wayne Finger Lakes BoCES for his dedication and participation in Finger Lakes Secondary School and Finger Lakes Technical and Career Center. He actually did a presentation recently at the Wayne Finger Lakes BoCES.
He's on their website.
Yes, he's on our school website as well, or actually on the Facebook page. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out for anybody that may watch this back and might be listening, that on the Facebook page for Honeoye Central School District, there's a new art club video for our opportunities outside the classroom, which showcased some of our younger artists, which I thought was very nice to see, so that people on the outside of these walls can see that there are other opportunities for our students, that they do enjoy what they do, and it does help them become an individual as much as a team player in many ways. So I would like to just give a kudos to our entire staff and everybody within these walls that makes all the great work happen, because I feel like this month and the tail end of January has been a extremely heavy month for outstanding things. So a kudos to all from me. All right, then we'll move on to Board of Education Committee reports and updates.
Finance.
Mhm.
Finance Committee met this week and I drew the short straw, so I'm doing the update. We met and I'm gonna just be really brief because Mr. Bastian's gonna go over more details of what we looked at and what we discussed. It's the beginning of budget season and we will be meeting at least twice a month, I think, for the next couple months until we get a budget in place and hopefully a good budget for all.
Nothing from legislative. Okay. I will do the Facilities Committee report. We met on February 5th at 3:00 for about an hour. This was the kickoff meeting for the construction document phase of the project. This is informational and typically a bi-weekly meeting that we have. So as of right now, we have roughly 8 weeks before March 28th, which is the submission deadline to SED. It is important to note The SED deadline and submission does not mean that things cannot be decided on after we have submitted. However, anything involving code compliance, that's like the only things that can't change at that point. There will be some meetings outside of these biweekly meetings. One will be the design document estimate review. There'll be some around finishes and hardware, things that would need to be picked out in smaller bits than huge doors and a playground and things like that. And then there'll be another one for the SED paperwork, which will include documents about the main building and the transportation building. So we're looking at a timeline of, we have to submit March 28th, and then we're hoping that somewhere between September and October, we will have SED approval back with the comments from SED, and then there'll be addendums back from us. Then at that point, we advance toward the bid set. So we're looking at a 6-month bid process, hoping somewhere that will start in October or December. And then spring of 2026 is when construction is slated to hopefully begin. We also talked about the playground, which is like a huge thing for this project, and rightfully so it should be. We talked about the playground equipment itself is going to be purchased from a state co-op. So once we know further down the road exactly what the price tag is going to be on things, and we can start picking things out, at some point, that's when the community is going to come in and they'll be able to, if we want to let them vote on colors or and things like that, this will be the community part of this project. We also talked about branding for the covered entrances. We talked about elementary and main entrance, elementary and secondary. Mike had sent an email out later last week, I think it was, and I'm not sure exactly what everyone's final vote was, but we did talk about what the branding should look like. We also talked about the bus garage and then mechanical, electrical, plumbing throughout the buildings, including bus garage. And then Joe's piece of advice, which he usually says one thing that hangs heavy in my head, and I remember what he says and I always write it down. Joe advised not making decisions based on possibilities of the state. So do what you need to do, and then as we get closer to finalizing things, when the picture becomes more clear, that's when we'd say what we need to do. So we shouldn't weigh too heavily one way or the other right now. Just be smart about what we're doing. So that is that. And then does anybody else have anything to add? All right. Then I will turn the floor over for the superintendent's report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tori, and hello, everyone. Tonight, members of our leadership team are here and have prepared a presentation to highlight fall to winter benchmark data, ELA and math. They will also be sharing some exciting accomplishments as well as why we are shifting our practices to support a new literacy initiative. They have worked together to develop a plan and will also be sharing next steps. But first, a few of many kudos. I know we talked a lot about them, so I'll go very quickly, but I have pictured here this month's Rotary honorees. Jerry mentioned Lila DeSalt and high school student Levi Warren for outstanding citizenship and for being positive community service members. And while I know Isabella usually reports out on everything and all things athletics, I just wanted to say, as our winter season is coming to a close, just thank you to our coaches and congratulations to all of our student athletes. And again, a kudos here to our music department for hosting Jazz Night. The turnout was outstanding. You can see the bottom center picture is just, there were so many people here celebrating. The music was outstanding, food was outstanding, and conversation was outstanding. So thank you to that. I didn't know that they collected over $800, so that's pretty great. A huge wow to the cast and crew of today and tonight's elementary play production. I saw it this afternoon and was blown away by our young acting talent. Thank you to Carter Bunce for organizing this year's blood drive. Today we had it right here in this room and it was packed full of donors. So thank you to them. And lastly, thank you to elementary principal Mikey DeVanzo and her participating teachers for hosting our Board of Ed walkthrough tour. Great job, and thank you to the board members who were here for that. Secondary staff members will welcome our Board of Education for their tour, Nate, on March 6th. And now I turn it over to student board member Isabella Nellis.
Hello. So these slides are Valentine's Day themed as it is in 2 days. So these are my February 12th slides. So starting with an update about the sports, starting off with cheerleading, which I'm part of. Mod Sports has finished, and then varsity has sectionals this Friday and senior night this Wednesday, along with the boys basketball team. Emma Roble received second team All-Star, and me first team All-Star at our competition this last weekend, which was leagues. And then Maddie Dates and myself both received exceptional senior award, which we'll both be attending. So it's kind of seniors from around our area get together and we do a little cheer of our own. And then for track, our boys, they continue to do well at their track meets, many setting new personal records. And our boys track came in second for leagues, losing by 10 points to Marcus Whitman, which is a rather big school. So comparing sizes, we did pretty well considering that. And then for the divisionals, our girls team got fourth overall. Our basketball, which has been doing very well recently, which I know a lot of you guys attended, the only team that they had lost against, which was South Seneca, and the crowd and the school spirit was just unmatched. And then we also had a chance to bring donations for the town that surrounds South Seneca, and Honeywell community did not disappoint. We had lots of donations come in. And then again, as said again, Landon Washburn hit his 1,000 points in his 3-year career on varsity. And then girls basketball recently had their senior night, where 6 seniors and our exchange student were recognized. And then this was from a basketball athlete herself. She said, as the season is coming to an end with sectionals right around the corner, they've implemented new defenses to get them through difficult games. Everyone who steps out onto the court is working their hardest and having fun playing basketball. And the whole team is working really well through their practices and games, and it's a fun environment to be with. And then bowling, I saw that they had their senior night recently, and then their coach says that they continue to improve their skill as a team and getting better scores. And then these are just a couple pictures. At the top left is me and Emma this Saturday. Bottom left is the donations that we brought for Ovid. And then that top picture where you can see Coach Delasanti is the other side of the crowd. I was on kind of where the basketball players were, and the crowds were really packed. That whole section, it's usually we have like that side kind of be for guests. It was all filled with Honeywell guests. And then in the bottom middle-ish is our girls senior night. And then outside of the track room, you can see little awards / accomplishments that their coaches put up there, seeing the improvements that they made and the awards that they won. And then there's Mrs. Coach Carly Walsh and Maddie Dates and myself for the exceptional seniors. And then an update on a few of our clubs. NHS, which we've talked about, had their blood drive today. And like I said before, they extended their time running the snack shack. So we're continuing doing that come February 14th. Come support me. Youth to Youth, they're doing their yearly carnation sales. I've seen Mrs. Pesamenti. She's been helping a lot with that, working and selling during lunch. And then Art Club, Mrs. Meyer said that this month they will be doing candle making, which sounds very interesting. And then yearbook clubs, deadlines are approaching and coming, and we are meeting a lot of our deadlines, and it looks like it's going to be projecting very well. Student council, and we are planning and getting ready for our March Madness event and trying to see how we can get more student participation. And then math team, I believe it was this Wednesday, we had our second meeting for our upcoming math competition. And then student concerns, to be honest, I asked a couple teachers as well, and 2 of these were from teachers. So it's not just student concerns, it's teacher concerns as well. So the teacher brought up that they wish that students had more opportunities to take electives. A lot of the times, which I understand because we're such a small school, that we don't have 5 class periods of everything. But like, for example, 7th period, I take Gemini American Government. But that's the only section that it's taught in, and the class is pretty full. But that means I can't take jewelry. So it just kind of limits the opportunity that our kids are allowed to take. And then this was from students, the chairs and tables in the lobby. I actually had to get some clarification on this because me and a classmate tried to sit there during lunch and we were told we couldn't sit there. So I got it extended to where NHS students can sit there during lunch, but kind of students are confused when and like they're allowed to use them and the point of them being there if a lot of the times they're not allowed to sit there. And then this was a teacher. She said that we should bring back field trips. So her idea was that a lot of times in different classes, you have to miss out on like core classes because you're taking a field trip. So trying to designate time periods where classes can take field trips so that they can take the learning that they're taking in school and put it outside of school. Like I know our math wing, and physics, we go to Seabreeze and then we implement what we've learned into the roller coasters and things like that. And I think like in different classes like art and even English, like those type of things, I think kids want to see more of. And I know teachers said that field trips were a lot more popular back before COVID, and it's kind of just dwindled down since then. So bringing that back would be amazing. And that is all. Thank you so much.
All wonderful ideas. I love, again, having Isabella here sharing out ideas. We have Mr. Schneckenberger and Mr. Angel right here. I saw you writing all of that down, right? No, I'm kidding. These are great ideas, and we will certainly talk about these. I wanted, for a minute, just recognize the hard work that Isabella puts in. She was here late for peer tutoring as a tutor, went home, came back for cheerleading, went home, it must have been for 10 minutes or so, and was already back here for this.
Yeah.
So thank you for all
Yeah,
that
it was a
you
long
do.
day. I had my classes and then the study hall I had, I was working on scholarships, and then I worked at the blood drive after school, and then I had to peer tutor after school, and then I had to rush home, get my stuff for cheer, come back. And then there's stuff at cheer, so I had to stay after for cheer and deal with that stuff. And then that's why I was 5 minutes late. And then people struggle to drive in the snow. So it was a little frustrating driving here, but
And
so-
she's still so positive and smiling. Can we give her a round of applause? Love it. Thank you. Really, Isabella, thank you. That's a lot. We recognize that. All right, and now please welcome leadership team members, Nate Schneckenberger, Mikey DeVanzo, Erica Esquino, and Matt Angel. Oh, we're going one at a time. All right, Nate, if you want to grab Nate, can I give you the clicker? Thank you.
Yes. All right. Okay, so I will kick us off tonight. I think at this point, the board's seen the structure, at least of the iReady data. I'll touch on it briefly, but really we want to show the iReady performance. I think Ms. Fook just talked about from where the students were in the fall to where they're currently at. We just recently, between January and February, finished up our iReady testing for the winter. So it's a second diagnostic, and then we do a third one at the end of the year. So just to frame the data a little bit and just give it some context, I think it's important to keep in mind that we are at the midway point of the year. So the gains the kids have made, just to keep in mind that we're at the midway point. So, even a student that's showing that they're still a grade level behind, according to the data or what we're going to see in yellow, if that student was 2 grade levels behind and they've already closed the gap for 1 grade level here at mid, then they're definitely on pace to be on grade level by the time we hit June. So I just think that's a piece to keep in mind. And I guess just in general, I'm very confident in our teachers' ability to close the gaps. We just recently had our English regents this January, which we've shifted to do to have our juniors take in January the last couple of years. We had an 89% pass rate on the January regents. So it's a good number for the students that didn't pass the test. It does give us opportunity then to provide AIS to those students, which they're already scheduled into. We've got 2 teachers providing that. So we split the group. It's a really small group that we split to really prepare those kids to retake the test again in June. And Mr. Angel, thanks, Mr. Angel, he put together the data from the test. So we went through and did an item analysis. So every response for individual kids, what they got right, what the response should have been, as well as their essays. And we're providing all that data to the AS provider. So it's like very targeted, specific to those kids. And I'm very confident that that group, by June, it'll be 100% and they'll be back on pace with their classmates. So I think even with the kids, we get the kids where they're at, but I'm still very confident in our ability to close the gaps, even the ones that we see tonight. So in addition to that, we had 8 other students who also passed Regents courses that they previously did not, and that included 2 seniors. So I'm very pleased about that. They were the last, they just had 2 tests left on their plate. Otherwise, they're in good shape. So we were able to have both of those kids pass, and I'm psyched about that. So, okay, I will move us on now to the data. So the first set right here that we're looking at, and I actually labeled it ELA and kind of mistakenly, because really when you're looking at iReady data, this is really just the reading. So it's reading and math. It's not ELA in general because it doesn't include writing components. So that really should have been my fault, labeled as reading. But what you see here is this is for grades 6 through 8 altogether. And if I just have a couple of points, and then certainly if there's any questions or comments, please stop me. But right here, you'll see that we're currently for our middle school, we have 48% of our students on grade level currently at the midway point. And we've had 7 fewer students who are 2 or more grade levels behind. So we've been able to move those students. Now, some that's not necessarily reflected, but definitely showed growth. There's 28 kids within those categories that have showed growth, just not to the degree that you're going to see them move an entire category. So let me back up a little bit, just because I think I jumped ahead, just to give it a little bit more. So let me just go back and not assume. So on the top is what our winter iReady diagnostic data is. Right below it's the fall. To the farthest left is the kids that are mid or above grade level, with the green that's as lines. The solid green is the kids that are early on grade level. The yellow represents kids that are 1 grade level below. The solid red is students that are 2 grade levels below. And then the red with the lines is the students that are 3 or more grade levels below. So really what we're looking to do is push everything from the left to the right, shrink down the red and the yellow, move our green all the way over is really what we're looking to do in terms of getting movement for that. It also identifies the number of students. We have the percents on the top, but it talks about the number of students where they were and where they were previously in the fall and where they currently are. So yeah, and like I said, there's students that have shown growth, just not yet to the degree that they're going to show up as a percentage increase to the next category. So an example would be like a 6th grade. I have an example, like a 6th grader that came in at a 2nd grade reading level, and has improved a whole grade level already, would still show up, being three grade levels behind, and would still be in the red line category, even though they've made an entire grade level of growth, for instance. And we do have a few of those kids. Okay. So next up is our math. This is math 6 through 8. So currently our 6 through 8 math, we have 52% of our kids that are on grade level currently. And this is an increase of 22 students who are now on grade level, weren't in the fall. So they made pretty good gains in math. We've also, on the other end of that, had a 50% decrease from 22 students to 11 who are currently 2 or more grade levels below. So we cut that number in half so far. And then we'll just go through by grade, just to take it. And I just pulled out a couple of points, but if there's something else on the board would like to discuss, we certainly can. So for 6th grade reading, for the students that are mid or above grade level, so all the way the furthest to the left on the graph there, that increased from 14 to 32% from the fall to the winter. And we had a 14% decrease in the number of students that are 2 or more grade levels below for reading. In math, we had some big gains. I think you can see it just in looking at the colors, but we had a 10% increase in the number of students that are mid or above, and we had a 20% increase in the students reaching early on grade level. So really talking about the number of, the percentage of students that have moved to be on grade level now that weren't, you're talking 30% increase from the beginning of the year. So that's some solid gains right there for the math department. And there was a 13% decrease in the number of students who were 2 or more grade levels below. Okay, moving on to seventh. So seventh currently for reading, we're at 43% of our students on grade level. And we have 3 fewer students who are 3 or more grade levels below. 2 of the 3 of those students have shown nearly 2 grade levels of growth though. The growth was less here for the reading. I do want to acknowledge that. And we are taking a look at the 7th grade growth in this category. So their overall proficiency rate is kind of in the wheelhouse, but they also started a bit higher too. So we're taking a look at that piece. As far as math, 48% are currently on grade level versus 32% in the fall. And we have 3 fewer students who are currently 2 or more grade levels below. Okay, and then on to 8th grade for us. So our 8th grade, they're really excelling on both fronts. So if you take a look, they're certainly, putting up some solid green there. We have 65% of our students on grade level for reading in 8th grade and 60% for math. In the reading, we had 2 students who were 3 grade levels below who've demonstrated at least a grade level of growth already. And in math, we have 4 fewer students who are now multiple grade levels below. No longer, they were. We have 4 fewer students that are in that boat right now. So gains really on both ends for our 8th graders.
Nate, sorry to interrupt you. These students, where were they during COVID? Are these the first, second, and third grade, or were they?
So the first year of COVID, 4th grade, the first year, is that what you said? God, I gotta think now. Okay.
In 2nd grade. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Okay. Anything else on any of that? Okay, then I wanted to touch real quick before I turn it over the elementary. I just want to talk really quick about some of the supports that we have in place and the things that we're doing currently this year, and then also what I'm looking to do next year. So currently what we did with our 6th grade, so we did something a little different with their ELA block. So it was an 80-minute or an 82-minute block, so like a double period of ELA. So it was reading and writing and everything together. I met with our teachers and we talked a bit, and they were really what they really want to do is have a targeted period. So they want to have one period targeted strictly on reading and one strictly on writing, and kind of separate the two and have it just be focused. So that's what we did, and we're trying it this year. Like I said, the test the kids are going to take for New York State is reading and writing. It's all the pieces of ELA. So I'm curious to see where that gets. So at the end, we're going to take a look and see where the data and what the data tells us after the kids take their state test. But we're trying this model just to see if we can get some more gains. And if that helps our kids and we find that's productive, then I'm going to try to stick with that. So that's something that we changed a bit. And we just recently kicked off a literacy club. It's going to run through late March right now. We've got 11 students in that. And it's really just to give them a boost, to hopefully just boost them at this point in the year. Certainly no harm. They meet a couple of days a week. Goes over an 8-week period. Right now it's 6th and 7th graders. We did a very targeted invite. So we started with our students that were most in need. And then, depending on the response we kept working up the list. But that's where we started with in terms of our invites. And then our AAS, I've talked about it plenty, so I won't belabor that piece, but I do want to mention at least that we've more than quadrupled the number of students that are currently receiving AAS than when I arrived here. And I think originally our structure was we had it set up that we were increasing it, but at times it would take kids out of some other classes. So whether they'd come out of art for a day or come out of tech or something like that, which I wasn't in love with. I didn't want the kids missing things with their peers. I didn't I wanted them to have the full experience. So we adjusted a bit this year to have it be on the opposite days of PE. PE meets every other day. It alternates. Which is excellent if the student only needs just math or just ELA. But I think when we run into problems a bit, or what I'm seeing where I don't think it's enough for the kids is when they have needs in both ELA and math, because then you're doing PE and then ELA and then PE and then math and then PE again, and it kind of goes between 2 and 3 a week. But when you're sharing that time, I think the kids need more. They need more to close the gaps that, we just looked at right there to really get them where they are. So what I'm looking to do next year is to, right now I'm working with our counselors to dedicate a period for our middle school that's dedicated strictly to our ELA support, so reading and writing, but for that particular period. So it's not competing with anything else. I took a close look at our schedule. I definitely think it's something we can do. So that'll be just that piece. And then we can level it depending on where the kids are. The kids can move within that piece because it'll be fluid enough because there's nothing else happening right then during that time. And also for our kids that are maybe above grade level, it gives us some opportunity for some enrichment pieces too. So it really gives us a lot of flexibility during that period, both to support the kids without competing with anything else and to even up the amount of support they're getting, both in the frequency and the minutes they're getting. And I think that'll help a bunch. So that's one piece. And with that, we would keep PE then, or we would keep our math AIS on the opposite days of PE. So it would increase AIS for math even. And our math scores right now, we're doing great. So our last, we've said in the last couple of years, they've been some of the highest in the region for one grade level. We've been the highest in the region for 2 years in a row. And the others were like top 5 out of 25 schools. So math's in good shape. It would even increase that by at least one more day, at least 40 minutes a week. So I think that structure will help us get even more gains, I think, next year. Okay. My final slide, and I'll hand this over. So I wanted to take a second just to acknowledge some of the high school things that are happening. Some kudos went out. These might be some that were not mentioned. So first off, I want to take a look at the students that was mentioned that received top of the trade in the last quarter. So for auto tech, it was Ethan Morgan. For carpentry, Dylan Abrams. And emergency services was Christopher Shannon and Landon Melee. And I just want to take a second. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I did want to pull out some of the excerpts of what their teachers said about them when they nominated them, because I thought it was, well, I'll let you guys listen. So Ethan's teacher said, Ethan has a very good outlook on life and a strong work ethic. He arrives every day prepared to learn and ready to work. For Dylan, it said his projects are known for the precision and meticulous attention to detail, ensuring high quality finishes. Dylan's combination of technical skill, creativity, and leadership makes him an outstanding student in carpentry class. For Chris, they said his ability to work collaboratively with his peers has made him a valuable team member, and he often steps up to support others, showcasing his leadership qualities as one of the top students in this class. And lastly, for Landon, they said Landon has exhibited the highest degree of respect, professionalism, strong work ethic, and continues to be an example for others to follow. So I thought that was important to share because I'm definitely proud of the kids for their technical abilities and that the teachers are recognizing that. But if you noticed, all those teachers in some capacity commented on the kids' character, every one of them. So I think it's, yes, they're great at what they're doing. And they're also demonstrating, those, I think, very important character traits. I think it's important to share. In addition, I put up the list of where we're currently at in terms of our class of 2025, the colleges they've been accepted to so far. That's this latest list there in the middle. And I've highlighted Cora Gillette. So I wanted to talk about Cora a little bit. So Cora just recently was accepted to Dartmouth College. So I think it's it's definitely worthy of praise. You accepted to a Ivy League school. And just to give that a little bit of context, I took a look to really see, I know it's a very competitive school. I wanted to see just how competitive that is. So just to give that a little context, the acceptance rate for Dartmouth last year was 6%. They had over 28,000 applicants and they admitted less than 1,800 students. I think it was like 1,749 that they admitted out of over 28,000 applicants. So I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to Cora. I mean, she's put in some obvious commitment to her academics, but it's not just academics that gets you accepted to a school like that. It's everything she's doing outside too, and her character and what she's involved in. So, big kudos to Cora. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So to continue on with what Nate had already talked about, looking at our ELA or our reading data, you'll see in the fall we had overall 27% of our students were in the green, with 43% of our students in the green this winter. So we had a 16% increase. Also looking at that red portion, you'll see in the fall, we had an overall 24% in the red with 14% in the winter. So that was a 10% decrease for that. Also keep in mind that when we're looking at those kids that are in that red, they are receiving those tier 2 and tier 3 services with AIS providers or with special ed teachers within the classroom. Okay, and it'll be the same way also for our math data. Okay, so looking at the overall for math, in the fall, we had 17% of our students in the green with 40% in the winter. So making that a 13% increase. And then for the fall, we're looking at the red, we had 17% of our students in the red, but in the winter, we had 7%, so a 10% decrease for that as well. Okay, so if we break it down by grade level, looking at our kindergarten classes, from fall to winter, we had an increase of 25% in the green. You'll see we do not have any students that are in the red at this point. And then you'll also see for math, we had a 23% increase in the green. All right, for first grade, we had a 19% increase in the green and a 2% decrease in the red. For math, we had an increase of 29% in the green and then an 11% decrease in the red. Okay, same thing for second grade. We had a 14% increase for reading in the green with an 18% decrease in the red. For math, there was a 9% increase in green, a 13% decrease in the red. For third grade, there was a 15% increase in the green with a 17% decrease in red for our reading levels. For math, there was a 27% increase in green and a 22% decrease in red for our tier 3 students. For fourth grade, you'll see here that we had a 3% increase in green for reading with an 18% decrease in the red. So our biggest shift there was being the number of students that moved from that red into that yellow block, that tier 2, or just that one solid grade level behind. For math, there was a 21% increase in the green and a decrease of 6% in the red. And then fifth grade, you'll see here we had a 6% increase in green. You'll also see that there's one extra student that was having an off day, and it was just kind of a fluke for them once we dug into the data further to see who that student actually was. So that's not a real accurate depiction of their ability. For our math, we had an increase of 26% in the green and a 4% decrease in the red. Okay, so from that, what are we doing? So you'll see here we're doing, we have Literacy Club, and we had round 1 of Literacy Club, which took place November and December. We had 15 students that were able to participate in that. Then we had our round 2 Literacy Club is actually starting right after February break, and that'll run from February break through March. And we're currently in the middle of that sign up, but right now we have 10 students that are slated for that program. And Literacy Club this year, we really took a look at students that were right on the cusp. So looking at those students who were one solid grade level below for both their Fountas and Pinnell benchmarks, in addition to where they were in iReady, and whether or not those students that were in the yellow were kind of shift as well. You'll also see here that we did data dives with all of our teachers. So I met with each grade level and we reviewed our goals that they had set back in October on our conference day. And we kind of dug into the data to see, are we on track with our students? If we're not on track, where do we need to go? And how do we know that we're not on track? So they were really digging into the data using iReady, using any classroom assessments that they might have, and kind of just digging in and seeing like, what are our next steps for our kids? And if there are needs groups, who needs to go into those and what are our next steps? And if they were all doing well, what are their next steps to continue that growth? You'll see here also, we have the development of a UPK through 3 reading committee in which we are really digging in and reviewing our reading curriculum. And there was a law that was recently passed for Ed Law 818 to tie in the science of reading into our literacy instruction to help form the basis here. And so we're going to partner with them, and all of our administration will be working together over to be trained by reading and kind of how to help approach that learning piece. Which leads us to Erica.
All right, so I'm really excited to be talking to you about curriculum tonight. So as Nate and Mikey both talked about, we looked at the data for our kids. One of the things that New York State is doing right now is really moving towards an evidence-based and research-based approach to teaching kids how to read. So I just threw up some different ideas that are coming out of this New York State initiative. So recently they've passed this education law section 818, which is basically saying all of your PK through 3 literacy instruction has to be aligned to the science of reading, meaning it has to be research and evidence-based. So they're basing everything in practices that have been proven through different meta-analyses and different studies. So you can see they're really going from the approach that your brain specifically works in different ways in order to learn how to comprehend text, and talking about the different pieces that actually go into teaching somebody how to read. It is not natural. Learning how to talk is natural. Learning how to hear is natural, but learning how to read is not. And so going through a very systematic and explicit way of teaching kids how to read. If you remember kind of back in the olden days when we learned how to read, remember doing all the worksheets and you would say the sound, all the different sounds, and you would like circle the letters. Things kind of had shifted away from that kind of instruction to more about word reading the whole word at once and just recognizing the word. And it's going back to learning how to break down letters and sounds so kids can actually sound out the words. So they've put these different pieces up here, but again, this is the New York State law. So this is now where we're going to go, is we're going to start shifting some of our practices towards this explicit and systematic reading instruction. So this breaks down for you the theory behind the way that kids learn how to read and how it wraps up. So you can see they call this the reading rope. You can see how it winds together like a rope. The bottom part of the reading rope is usually the first part that we address, and it's teaching kids how to recognize words. All right, through their decoding, which is breaking words apart, or their encoding or spelling, which is building words, through sight words, so words that don't necessarily follow traditional rules, and through their phonological awareness, which is hearing and recognizing sounds and letters. So we start, if you think about your younger students, that's how they start to learn how to read. And then what happens is they take all those 3 parts and see how they're like braiding together. And as you get better at those skills, they become more automatic. And that is what creates you to be a fluent reader. Okay. Once you can become a fluent reader, you can pull in that top part of the rope, right? Which is bringing in your background knowledge, understanding vocabulary, because if you can break words apart, you can figure out what they mean. Your different language structures, how they put commas in sentences, how you put phrases together. And then, literary knowledge. So that becomes the comprehension side. All right. So you're taking the breaking down and putting together the words in the fluency, and you're putting it together with the pieces that make you understand. And that leads to being a skilled reader. So up at the top there where it says that simple view of reading, if you can decode and you have language comprehension, you can read for meaning. But if you're missing decoding or you're missing language comprehension, you're not going to be a skilled reader. That's really the basic idea. Does that make sense to everybody? Because that's kind of the basis of what all of this will look at. So when you look at our iReady scores, so this is the elementary scores that I pulled out. And I know in the past, they've talked to you about the different domains that they test in there. And so if you look at those top domains, your phonological awareness, your phonics, and your high frequency words, that's that bottom portion of the reading rope, right? And so if we're missing those pieces, remember, if we're missing that bottom part, we're not going to be able to weave into the top part and be successful. So when you look at our scores there, the phonological awareness, the reason that part is grayed out is that only tests up through second grade. Is it first grade or second grade? It only tests up through second grade. And then you'll see our phonics and our high frequency words. And those domains build upon each other. If you can't hear and recognize sounds, it's going to be really hard to sound out words. Make sense? They all build. So then what I did was I broke this down even further. So those are those 3 domains that I just showed you. And this is the percentage of students on grade level in each of those domains. Once we break this down, it's very clear to see our area of need, right? So what's really interesting about this is, remember, phonics is being able to break down the sounds in words or being able to build the words by their sounds. High frequency words are words that we memorize. So remember I said we were word readers and we're memorizing words. Our kids are word readers, but they're not able to break down the sounds. So this is why we need to make this shift. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. So this is what we're going to do. So Mikey and I put together a reading committee in the elementary. We have a rep from each grade level, including special ed, and we have reps from our AIS department. We are working together to go through the New York State Best Practices Guide, which is what they're expecting out of each grade level in terms of reading instruction. We broke that down last week with this team, and together with that team, we've put together these next steps. So Mikey's going to be talking with her faculty at their next faculty meeting, but we are going to be moving to a systematic tier 1, meaning every kid gets it, the same systematic instruction in phonemic awareness and phonics. So every kid will be in the same program, which means every kid is being taught the same way. Every kid is being, has the same language in their instruction. So you know, very organized way of doing it. Obviously, you're going to differentiate where you need to if kids needs different pieces. We are also going to work to streamline our tier 2 and our tier 3 for both phonemic awareness and phonics instruction. So again, everybody's using the same programs and the same language. So you don't have a piece of this and a piece of this and a piece of that. We're bringing it all, everything's going to be the same way. We are going to work to give some professional development and some release time to all of our PK3 teachers to work through maybe if they have to make small adjustments or alterations to their instruction. We're going to give them that time, supported work time. Mikey and I will be there. We have some teacher leaders who have offered to lead these teams to help everybody get ready. And then our team, the administrative team, is all going to be trained in the science of reading over April break. We have a full day with the Reading League, which is a not-for-profit organization, and their whole goal is about teaching people how the brain learns how to read. And then we also are going to have our PK3 teachers work together in their grade level teams, and actually the members of the reading committee are going to lead this work with their teams, breaking down what New York State is saying the best practices look like in your classroom. So you can see kind of on the bottom, we're looking at targeted professional development. We're looking at educative curriculum, which is going to increase the skills in that bottom part of the rope, which is going to help us increase student outcomes in reading. So that's what we're doing this spring. We're ready to go. And then we are also working on what next year is going to look like, because we can't do this all in one day. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some professional development. So we have partnered with the Reading League. We've been working with Natalie and Mike and our Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES, because we can go through them, and we have a 6-part, I think it was 6 parts. It's going to end up being 4 days of professional development that our teachers are going to get around the science of reading. It's broken into different topics. We are going to train all of our PK6 teachers in the science of reading, all of our special ed teachers, all of our AAS teachers, all of our English teachers, our speech pathologists, and our psychologists. So everybody is going to be on the same page with how we're teaching kids how to read. We're going to continue to do that grade level work to make sure we're aligned with what New York State is expecting from us. And then that reading committee is going to work next year to start vetting and looking at some curriculums. Right now, we have materials and curriculum to help us with those base level skills, the phonemic awareness and the phonics instruction. We're ready to go on that. We have it, but we really need to look for something that's going to help us at that top part of the rope in order to be sure, again, all of our kids are getting systematic and explicit instruction every day. So that committee is going to work together to select a curriculum. And then we're also going to look at maybe shifting the way that we're assessing kids. Because iReady is great, but it's kind of time consuming for kids. And there's other assessments out there that are quick and they give us a little bit more information. Like I can show you up there, this is where our kids are in phonics, but which area? We want to know exactly which part of phonics instruction are they not getting. So then we can target their intervention to exactly what they need, or which part of fluency are they weak in, and how can we give them a fluency intervention? So it's going to help us give us more information. It's going to diagnose the problem more for what we need to do.
I have one question, Erica. As a parent of a child that's starting to read, is there going to be any support for parents? Because this is a totally different way of learning. And I know they're like, read your kid. Well, what if you need more support? Because a lot of our kids are not where they're supposed to be at reading.
Yep.
So is there anything going to be available to parents? I know a while ago, they were sending home like packets to us, like work on this word, like how to sound it out, like tapping it out, like stuff like that. Is there going to be any resources like once this rolls out for us as parents?
Yeah. So the great news about this is kids in PK through 3 are all going to be following the same kind of instructional plan and the same structure of their lessons, which means it's going to be much easier for parents to follow the path of how their kids are learning how to read. Mikey and I have talked about maybe doing some literacy nights for parents. The curriculum that we are using is called UFly. That's our phonics curriculum. It actually has a parent component in it. So families can have access to that if they want to work with their kids on the different skills at home. So yes, there would be, and a lot of the curriculums that we're going to look at next year to that top part of the rope, a lot of them have family engagement pieces built into them now too. So that will be a factor like when we start looking at where we want to go. Any other questions? Jerry, nothing?
All right. Thank you to our entire leadership team for their collaboration efforts, their long hours and dedication, and for their willingness to always work together and think outside of the box for all of the ideas being thrown at them. You are making a difference and we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to our business official, I have just a few quick updates. Capital Improvement Project. It was uploaded to our website. So our most recent updates have been posted to our website to indicate where we are in the process. So wanted to share a little bit with you tonight. We have successfully completed the schematic design phase, which outlines the overall vision and layout of the project, as well as the design development phase. As mentioned last time, next steps involve preparing the construction documents and submitting these documents to the state for approval. Also, at our last board meeting, I shared a brief overview of all of the various parts of the project. And tonight I have a few pictures to share. And these are the pictures that have been posted to our website and will also be on our webpage. So here you see the home and careers renovation going from 3 kitchens to 2, but providing much more usable counter space. Also pictured is the new sewing section, which is in the back, located in the back of the classroom, but also plenty of classroom space with desks. And there's going to be some new storage shelves and a new pantry. Elementary bathrooms located right here across from the LGI will also be renovated. You will notice the two smaller bathrooms up the ramp here on both the left and right side of the ramp. One will become a storage unit and the other will become a single stall bathroom. So that's pictured in the left-hand side. It's hard to see here, but if you get a chance to, you can zoom in on our website. Covered entries at both the elementary and secondary student entrances will be more conducive to weather and safety, including you see the elementary entrance will hopefully have a seating area there. There's a covered area to the right. And also you'll notice the large lettering that's visible from the road. So one will say elementary and one will actually say main entrance. Okay. All right, and then as you know, we're still in the beginning stages of planning our playground as we want to be thoughtful and we want to provide our students and the community with something as loved as what we currently have. So we're really being thoughtful and patient and waiting really to get some more community feedback when we have a better idea of our playground budget. So more to come on that. There will be a meeting scheduled soon when we have, again, the more idea of our budget. So we're looking forward to that. A few questions have come up regarding our student cell phone use. While Governor Hochul has proposed a statewide ban on cell phone use, it's still just a proposal, right? Nothing has been adopted as of yet. So here at Honeoye, our responsible use policy, that's what we go by. It's working well, and we are not planning on making any changes at this time. So I will provide updates only in the event if we are going to be changing our policy. All right, I've had a few inquiries about our school lunch program and if free breakfast and lunch is going away. Again, the governor has noted how vital school nutrition programs are and is urging for continued federal support to ensure children have access to free lunch and breakfast. So again, at this point, we are not making any assumptions that that is going away for us. Okay, but as soon as I know something more, I will certainly share that out. And lastly, as Tori mentioned, you noticed on our website, on our Facebook page, sorry about that, a lot of different pages, but there was a club video about our club. We will be sharing out and highlighting one club a week over the next several months. So please keep a lookout. There will be one new club each week with videos of our students' testimonials. Okay, and now I turn it over to Mr. Bastian for a few updates from our business office.
Thank you very much. It's not working. Thank you, Jerry. Looking tonight to present the groundwork, if you will, kind of setting the stage for upcoming budget workshops and budget process, setting the stage tonight to get us ready for draft 1 and budget workshop 1 on March 5th. So tonight's agenda, I'll be going over some key expense budget, the expense side, some drivers for the 25-26 budget. I'll also be reviewing quickly the New York State executive budget and aid picture, a quick word in regards to federal government involvement, and then also sharing the tax cap calculation. That's our levy limit done every time this year, and done it this time every year. I'll share that information tonight. And then again, next steps as we're talking about getting ready for that budget workshop on March 5th. So first, we'll get right into the key drivers as we look to the rest of the budget development cycle this year. Here are some key items. We are looking at these, the vast majority of these as cost increase, whether new costs or percentage increases from year to year. One of those being health insurance, and that will be a healthy increase. We'll talk more about that as we get into budget workshop time. But health insurance premium costs for sure are going to be a key driver. Special education out-of-district program costs. We saw great increases to those this year, and we're looking for that again next year. Again, the cost for students for out-of-district special ed programs. All BOCES services, cost increases across the board. We'll pull out some specific ones as we move forward into the draft stages. Increased student opportunities for college coursework. We've talked about that with the instructional leadership team. Different ways that we can increase the number of students participating in college coursework and budget impact for that. From the transportation department, as it relates really to the special education out of district programming and the number of students out of district, looking to add a bus driver, a bus monitor, and as we do each year, we have to talk about replacement of buses. So we have, we'll see an increase in our bus purchase budget for next year as well. Continuing with our key drivers, instructional staffing costs, non-instructional staffing cost. Think of contractual obligations there. A new reading program, which you already heard about earlier this evening, the training for it, and then the implementation of new curriculum over the next year or so, year and a half. Potential for emergency projects. We're learning that through our current year experience with an aging building as we are eagerly anticipating this capital project, seeing the the reality that things can break down before the timing of the capital project. So wanting to keep that in mind for contingency purposes, and then also tracking utility costs and what they do here the next few months and moving forward for the next year or so. So those are some of the really key expense drivers that we see that we'll be coming back to, speaking more about as we work into our first, second, and then final drafts. Want to just remind everyone from our January 22nd board meeting, the executive aid run from Governor Hochul, and what we talked about there, we're seeing the due minimum to all schools for foundation aid increase of 2%. That's $124,000 for Honeoye. Our overall aid increase is just $8,000 more. That is from the expense-based aids. So honestly, truly, our aid increase from the state is a combined 1.6%. So it falls short of the 2% from the foundation aid when you factor in the other aids. Our adjusted executive aid, by the time I look at the numbers and make the changes necessary for accuracy here, we have $377,359 for the governor's adjusted executive aid run for Honeoye. In our discussion of the New York State budget from the governor, I shared that believe that the legislature is unlikely to improve upon the governor's school aid runs. We'll see. We'll see what that advocacy level is there and what the legislature would like to do. But I would be a little bit surprised if we saw additional aid being generated in the final state budget for schools. This will make more sense in just a minute, but just the governor has made a statement that she is not pledging to backfill any potentially eliminated or decreased federal education aid. Really the end story here, the bottom line is we are unlikely to get more aid from New York State for 25-26 than we have now in the executive aid run. And not to spend too much time on it, because the federal government government aid at the federal level is not part of our general fund budget. But if you're following the news with transition in administrations in Washington, D.C., there's talk about the future of the education department, and with that, possibly the future of some of the grant funding that comes to states, through states, to the districts from the federal government. So the picture really isn't clear yet, but the question is out there: can and should districts be relying on the federal funding to continue at the same levels we've experienced in the past? We do have federal grants. We have special education grants that we get from the federal government. So the question is, should we be considering if those monies are decreased or potentially eliminated either next year or down the road, we would need to seriously look at bringing those costs into the general fund budget and then think about what impact that would have. That would be a new additional expense side impact. All things told, between those different federal grants, we're looking at about $350,000 to $400,000 that if we couldn't rely on that, we would seriously need to look at bringing into the general fund budget, which would be a significant budget increase. So we could see a reduction in federal grant aid. is kind of the bottom line with this piece. As I mentioned, this is the time of the year where we do the property tax cap calculation. It's a formula. I wouldn't call it simple necessarily, but I've presented on this and broken it down in the past. Not going to do that again this year, but that is the formula you've seen before. This is actually finished yesterday, completed yesterday. This is the result of that formula when you put all the numbers in and use the factors and the limiting factors that are provided by New York State. And this machine, this formula punches out what the tax cap calculation is. Again, it is a mathematical function that tells us what our levy limit is for 25-26. So I'll go into that. First, we have the levy limit before exclusions, and our levy limit for 25-26 prior to looking at exclusions is $10,742,195. This includes some carryover from 24-25 when we did not levy at the allowable limit for our district. And so there is carryover that you can bring that was left behind last year to this year's calculation. And then we have the capital tax levy exclusion. There are a few capital expenses that are added up together, and then we look at the aids that come in opposite them to offset them. And when there is not as much aid or other money coming in to match all those capital expenses for next year, the particular capital expenses like buses and loans from our past building projects and some other items, when that aid is not equal to what the expense is for next year for these costs, then we can have, in this case, we did not have an exclusion last year, but we have an exclusion this year of $171,000. What that means is we can go out and add that to the levy. That is added to the maximum allowable levy. So we add the $171,000 on top of the $10,742. That's adding A and B together. And we have a tax levy limit for 25-26 of $10,913,881. If we look at last year's actual levy of $10,326,247, the difference is $587,634, or an allowable levy increase in terms of percentage of 5.69. That is higher than we have seen in quite a while, quite a while. It's partially due to the carryover, partially due to the exclusion, and everything that's run through this formula. So we can go out as high as a 5.69%. Obviously, we'll be talking about that, dialoguing with the committee and with the board as we move forward. But that is the calculation. And my next step is to take that and submit that to the New York State Controller's Office. All right. Next slide. As I mentioned, we'll submit the tax cap calculation to the OSC, the Office of the State Comptroller, by March 1st. And continue to develop the draft 1 expenditure budget throughout the rest of this month and into March. We have the Budget Finance Committee meetings through February through April. March 5th, as I already mentioned, we have budget workshop number 1. That's a 6 o'clock meeting. Everybody remember a different starting time there where we will see draft 1. We'll be going through the budget by categories and looking at categories where there is significant increases or decreases monetarily wise. Copies will be available of the categorical draft budget at the March 5th meeting. And then following the March 5th meeting, that same draft will be available online and in the district office. We'll follow the same procedure, the same format for our second budget workshop, draft 2 on March 19th. And then right now, if the state budget comes in on time, April 1st, we are looking to follow our budget calendar tentatively and have the property tax report card and the 25-26 budget adopted, approved by the board on April 9th. That would be our final draft. Any questions from the board in regard to information shared? All right, great. That concludes the setup for the March 5th budget workshop and the setting the stage, if you will, in terms of where we are at this point. Thank you to the committee, the finance committee, for our work together on Monday to get us to this point. Much appreciated. Next, I have a few items continuing with the monthly comprehensive budget report update. As you remember, we began this a year or two ago and continuing that, just highlighting a few items each month. And the first one, secondary library instructional salaries. If you were to look at the comprehensive budget report, you would see that there is a $17,000 or so available line there. We have encumbered everything we need for salaries. This line represents salaries for a library media specialist and the library TA at the high school. Remember that last year, during budget time, we had two longtime HCS employees in those two positions, library media specialist and library TA. We saw changes in both of those positions for Ms. Miller and the retirement of Ms. Davis. So our new hires for library media specialists and library TA, we had some breakage in salary obligations, so that's why that number is going to be under expensed. Next, I want to look at a number towards the end, very end of the comprehensive budget resort in the 9,000 range. This is for the Social Security FICA tax. Right now, it shows as having $362,000 available out of a $655,000 budget for the year. I want to explain that. This is a pay-as-you-go prospect here. This is for the payment of the employer, the district's portion of Social Security and Medicaid taxes for all payroll. This is 7.65% of all payroll expenses. And the reason that it's so under expensed at this point is because we're just over halfway of the year, and most of our instructional staff do the multi-pay, the big pay, if you will, the summer pay at the end of the year. So we see it skewed in that direction. Okay. Each payroll we have the 7.6% of that payroll. If the payroll is $200,000, 7.6% of that is expensed out of the Social Security FICA line. And you'll see that as we get closer to the end of the year, we're going to come very close to a full expenditure on this. Okay. But the gap now, I wanted to explain why we see such a gap now. Why is there so much money left in there? This is why, because it's spent as we go. And then the third one, transfer to capital projects. This is for our annual capital outlay. $100,000 budgeted, $100,000 available. That's because at the end of the year, this money is reallocated, relocated, if you will, to pay for capital outlay project expenses. It will be fully expensed. It will be fully moved to another holding area. So that is why this is not yet expensed. So those are the three areas I have for you for explanations for comprehensive budget report. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're all set, Natalie? Okay. And we will move on with the consent agenda.
Tori?
Yes,
Can we possibly excuse our administrators and Isabella from this part of the meeting? Isabella's had a long day, and I'm sure our administrators have too, and this is more business than anything else.
sure.
Is that okay?
You're welcome to stay, you're welcome to go. But thank you for being here. Get some sleep, Isabella. Thank you. It's okay. Okay, so we'll move on with the consent agenda, and I will need a motion to approve the minutes for January 22nd, 2025's board meeting and the February 4th, 2025 special board meeting, as well as the CSE minutes. Can I get a motion? Okay, the second.
A second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. We'll move on to personnel. We have resignations. I would need a motion to accept the following. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to accept the following resignations. Rachel Sherman is the modified softball coach effective February 12th, 2025. And Melanie Braun is the major musical producer effective February 12th, 2025. Motion on that?
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to appointments, I'll be looking for a motion to approve on the following. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to approve the following appointments. We have 2024-2025 secondary extracurricular advisors, major musical producer Whitney Cornish, major musical choreographer Peyton Clark, major musical costume designer Nicole Martin, elementary literacy club teachers Rebecca Krasinski, Kim Wolkett, Kate Klatt, and Megan Trippy. Could I get a motion for those, please?
Tori,
Mhm.
I'd like to move that we move the secretary advisors for the play into executive session just for discussion.
So then I would need a motion on everything, right, Jen, to put it? Okay.
Yep.
So we'll move on the elementary literacy club teachers. Get a
I'll make that motion.
All right, in a second,
I'll second.
all right. Any discussion on those? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried, and then we will take the secondary extracurricular advisors and move those to executive. Moving on to new business, old business, we have invoice. We would like to take, let's just SWBR, sorry. I need a motion to approve SWBR invoice 000241980 for the emergency project.
I'll move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to contracts. We would need a motion to approve the Honeoye Falls Lima Central School District and the Canandaigua Central School District contracts listed. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
In a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Annual vote. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to set the date and time for the annual vote and election to be held on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, from 8 AM to 9 PM in the auditorium foyer of Honeoye Central School. We need a motion on that. Motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Substitute rate of pay. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to approve the following substitute pay rate. It'll be substitute teacher assistant moving up to $15.50 an hour effective January 1st, 2025 to reflect the increase of minimum wage. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Obsolete items. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to declare the following item as obsolete and discard it. It would be from the Physical Education Department, the Yamaha Power Amplifier. Can I get a motion to declare that obsolete and discard?
I'll move.
A second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Conference attendance. So I am looking for a motion to approve Jim Sykes and Jermaine Morgan to attend the Four County School Board Annual Spring Education Conference on March 21st, 2024.
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I just
Let's-
had a question, in the event that something comes up and someone can't attend, I guess, this conference or any conference, do we have like a backup person that goes, or we just lose that loot? Or how does that work?
Jermaine, if something did come up and there was enough notice, I would be willing to go if somebody couldn't go.
Can, I guess the second question then is if someone is available to replace, then we could just switch them out in the event. Thanks.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Capital Improvement Project invoices. We need a motion to approve SWBR invoice 0002408 for the SIP and SWBR invoice 0002408 for the SIP. Need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Comments from the Board of Education. Does anybody have anything?
I had a question, just, I thought of it earlier, in regards to the playground project, somebody asked me if it was possible for the community to have their own little fund drive to contribute funds to the playground specifically.
I think so, yeah, I think that would be fine. What I'll do is when we have the committee meeting, I will put that out, or if you know who it was that said that, you could let them know that we do have a meeting coming. I was hoping February, it's probably going to be closer to March, so we'll let you know. Thank you.
Groovy, thanks.
And piggybacking on that, when we built this last playground, we had members of the community do a lot of it. Is that a possibility again, or you can't because of,
Liability.
Mm,
okay.
But good idea.
I think because of now all of the equipment that has to be approved and used, it couldn't be something that we would be able to bring in and do. But I like the thought.
Yeah.
We can certainly look into it in case. Yeah.
Is there anything else? I just wanted to update, my fellow board members that the yearbook ad is all paid for. And, I did give final approval on that, so we're all set with that. And just for the record, that it was individually paid for by each board member to cover the cost of the ad. If there's nothing else, there's information and the warrants for the board. And then we need to go into executive session.
So we'll do for the discussion of the appointments, to discuss contract negotiations and to discuss matters leading to the employment of a future employee.
Okay, could I get a motion to enter into executive?
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. We are in executive session. Okay, going back to appointments, then I would need a motion to approve the 2024-2025 secondary extracurricular advisors. Can I get a motion on that? Okay. And a second?
Doing them all together?
Yep. All right. You want us to do them separate? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to do them all separate.
So do I need to do anything to remove the motion? Or just go back? Okay. Okay, we're going to take them all single. Then I would need a motion to approve, major musical producer Whitney Cornish. Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Major musical choreographer Peyton Clark. Motion? A second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then the major musical costume designer, Nicole Martin. Need a motion? And a second? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay. Then I would need a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay. And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That's carried and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.